You're listening to Career Ready, and I'm Coach K. Getting you ready for your corporate career. Yesterday we looked at what organizational culture is and the 7 different organizational cultures based on the OCP framework. We identified that there are 2 levels to any organizational culture, the intangible and the tangible. That the intangible level is considered the personality of the organization. It's in its shared values, its mission, even the working environment, and how it makes you feel when you're interacting and functioning in that working environment. While the tangible, if you can remember, is how it treats people and how you are inducted into the system, how they hire, how they even fire, and it's in how they reward good behavior and punish bad. Today we will attempt to unpack as much as we can on the following 2 topics. Number 1, why it's important to identify and know the organizational culture for your career development. And number 2, how to ultimately determine an organization's culture before you work for them. You need to know and identify a company's culture before you work for them and consistently make self-assessments as you grow within the organization to determine early on for yourself whether or not it actually is a culture that you can grow and be successful in. There are 5 reasons I've put together for us to help you understand why knowing the type of culture you're functioning in is so important. I call these the 5 S's for a successful career in an organizational culture. Number 1 is survival. Whether you like the culture or not, you will still need to develop the correct techniques for yourself to survive and thrive in it for as long as you're a participating member of that organization. Number 2, success. Success is never attained alone, and you will need the help of others. So it's imperative that you identify early on what it will take for you to be successful in a healthy way. Number 3, strength. You will need to be resilient, tenacious, and strong-willed to succeed according to your standards. Number 4, symbiotic relationships. Relationship management is one of the most crucial skills you will need to actively work on and develop for a successful career. It's good to know and understand early on who plays what role and the kind of relationships you will need to foster and nurture. And number 5, sacrifice. There is a saying, sacrifice comes before success. We will sacrifice different things for our careers, but what you ultimately sacrifice is based on your core values. So if the family unit is important to you, then you will know that this is something you will never sacrifice for career success. Now that we've seen why it's important for you to understand the type of organizational culture that you're working in, let's discuss how you can determine the culture. Hopefully before you start working, so that you don't feel stuck in an awful environment. Sadly though, determining an organization's culture is actually not that easy to do, since the culture has 2 levels, but also because it can change based on the new hire of a CEO. Any CEO brings in their own team of trusted lieutenants. Whether they do this upon arrival or in time, this change will happen. So it's important to know that culture can be fluid, it can sometimes be fickle, and is based on who the captain is at that given point in time. But there are 3 easy ways that you can attempt to get an idea of the organization's culture before you start working. Number 1 is to do your research. Research. It might sound boring, but it is so necessary. So read up on how they treat their employees and their community as a whole. Are they consistently in the news for good or unpleasant reasons? Do they have a high turnover of senior leadership? These things will help you determine the values of the organization and give you some insight into the culture. Number 2, ask questions in your interviews. Ask strategic questions in your interviews to get an idea from the panel about what it's actually like to work there. Go and have a listen to some of our previous sessions on interview preparation for some questions that you can ask that will give their culture away if answered honestly. And number 3, speak to your network. Find professionals who work there and ask them politely if they wouldn't mind answering some questions you might have about the organization. Most people really don't mind, but your approach is everything. In addition, don't forget that once you're in and you start working, to immediately implement the 5 S's for optimal success. Tomorrow we will discuss common mistakes that I've found that we as Black professionals do or make when we enter corporate for the first time. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for joining. You can continue the conversation with me on LinkedIn by following my hashtag QM Career Coaching, or on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, as well at Hello Coach K. Or if you prefer, you can send me an email at info@hellocoachk.com. See you next time.